floor.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation and opportunity to join you in this very interesting event, particularly that the issue related for the vector-borne and the control and surveillance of these vectors is rapidly raising up during this COVID-19 pandemic as additional challenge. So here I'm presenting about the threat of the invasive malaria vector, Northern stephensi, in the African region, and what lesson have we learned so far, and what we need to adapt and change our vector control and surveillance policy. So the main thing that I'll go through is brief introduction about the emergence of Anopheles stephensi in the area and the current distribution in Africa, and also what type of threat that these invasive disease vectors bring to the area, and also a brief highlight about the challenge for the surveillance and control in the area. And lastly but not least, what lesson have we learned and what we need to do so far. Anopheles stephensi has emerged recently. It's originally from Asia. It's a known vector of malaria in Asia, particularly in Southeast Asia and most part of Arabian Peninsula. However, it has recently emerged in Africa, where it has been reported for the first time in Djibouti in 2012, and later have also emerged in Ethiopia in 2016. In 2019, it had been reported for the first time from Sudan and Somalia, and what we can see from that is how rapidly it's progressing and spreading. This is what so far have been reported. However, the most important thing about this report, all of them has been found or detected accidentally. Like, unfortunately, our routine vector surveillance is not in Africa merely. It's not that proactive and paying attention for the invasive species. So the detection and reporting of an Anopheles stephensi from all those area in Africa so far has been like sort of serendipity of research discovery. Like in the Djibouti has been detected when there was upsurge in malaria cases, and was when this upsurge have been investigated, they recently found that Anopheles stephensi has been the major player in that malaria epidemic. Same goes for Ethiopia. And when it comes to Sudan, it has been also reported during case investigating of insecticide resistance among the major vector of malaria in Sudan, Anopheles arabensis. And at that time, during that investigation and study, Anopheles stephensi was accidentally discovered. This represents a huge and a very alarming situation in Africa. That it tells us that our current vector surveillance isn't capable of collecting and identifying all the different vectors or potential vector of disease, including malaria, and that merely due to um, the motto of doing business as usual. So by our vector control and surveillance teams, they keep focusing on the already known members of malaria vectors, mainly Anopheles gambia, Combeles, and Anopheles phonesis groups. And one of the differences between Anopheles stephensi and the well-known local vector in Africa, that both Anopheles gambia, Combeles, and Anopheles phonesis group are breeding on ground. On the other hand, Anopheles stephensi mainly breed in man-made water containers. That's why it is out of the reach of our like routine surveillance for malaria vector. And this urged the need or raised the call for integrated vector surveillance and management, and instead of focusing on like one habitat or breeding site or of similar nature, it should focus on integrating all possible breeding site into the routine surveillance and paying attention for the different. And this is one of the huge challenge that unofficials are bringing in Africa because it challenge our practice, our local knowledge, expertise, and the routine work during the surveillance. So the WHO soon has realized this challenge and the threat that unofficials are bringing in the area. So they have launched like a global alert about unforeseen stephensi, emergence in an invasion to the Horn of Africa. That was in 2019, and also on the same time they have incorporated like totally new section in their malaria threat maps about the invasive vector species, which is so far dedicated for monitoring and real-time reporting of unofficial stephensi globally. And if we went into that section, that the dot red dot, it tells us that where unofficial stephensi have been reported as invasive, while the green dot is that's the area where unofficial stephensi have been detected, but as a native or a local species. So, however, if we pay attention, like for those red dots, particularly the one that in the western part of Sudan, like to the far left of the screens, it shows that now Anopheles stephensi is rapidly spreading into Africa, and now it's almost in border with of Sudanese border with Chad, Libya, and Central Africa. This will make the challenge and the issue of Anopheles stephensi beyond the Horn of Africa, and it might progress and spread into Central and West Africa. Actually, we talk here hypothetically that it didn't do that so far, but it might have been already spread into that area. But as I mentioned, due to the limitation in the surveillance system and therefore inactive surveillance targeting Anopheles stephensi is very, very recommended. And I was involved in this recent update for the distribution of Anopheles stephensi in Sudan. And that was mainly discovered through an active surveillance targeting and looking at searching for Anopheles stephensi in the potential breeding site, not the usual. And we aim to understand and the full distribution or the spread of this vector in the country. And however, when we reviewed previous sample that we have collected in 2016 and 2017, we have realized that, and we did like molecular analysis, and because the sample were preserved, some of them preserved in RNA later, so they were not available for morphological identification. However, when we use sequencing tool and molecular to revisit and reconfirm the species of those samples, it turned out that there is some sample collected in 2016 in Sudan, and unfortunately were belonging to another stephensi species. That tells us our newly produced knowledge about Anopheles stephensi is kind of naturally outdated because up to now no one knows when, how exactly Anopheles stephensi have invaded any region in Africa, not only in Sudan, but for how long it has been there, how it got there, and so and the current and up-to-date distribution. No one has accurate information about that, and this is one of the issues that we need as a global vector control surveillance and control community. We need to work on that and put our best investment. So the threat of Anopheles stephensi, in addition to like having an additional vector of malaria in the region, in addition to the currently known vector as I mentioned before, Anopheles for instance, and Anopheles gambia, Anopheles stephensi bring additional threats to the area. One of those threats is that it's an efficient vector, for both Plasmodium falciparum and Plasmodium vivax, and this has been confirmed naturally and experimentally in the lab. And this might play a major role in changing malaria epidemiology in aspect of ratio between the prevalence of stephensi, between malaria vivax and the falciparum malaria. And as we know, each of this species infection has a different case control um, protocol, and therefore any increase in malaria vivax in the area, it might require changing the case management or the program protocol for the case management. Another threat that Anopheles are bringing in the area, it is mainly urban and mostly breed in man-made water container, and it has advantage and disadvantage. One of the major disadvantages that malaria issue so far in Africa was mainly associated with the rural area and heavy transmission in this rural area, and even the control program is built around delivering better control and better surveillance in the rural area. So now this is one of the factors that made Anopheles stephensi out of the reach of the routine surveillance, because it's mainly thrive and breed and expand in the urban area. And another disadvantage related to this will change malaria transmission from seasonal malaria, that's the heavy transmission mainly occur during the rainy season, where there is expansion on ground breeding sites that are available for mosquito, and now with this breeding behavior of Anopheles stephensi in man-made water container. And as we know that most of Africa had issues with rapid urbanization, and with this rapid urbanization and lack of stable water supply, people in most of the community tend to store water in man-made water container, which is the perfect habitat for Anopheles stephensi to breed. And therefore we might have, and like a few recent studies have alarmed about this and warned from having malaria epidemic in large city in Africa due to the availability of man-made water containers throughout the year. So we'll have like throughout the year transmission season with high potential for malaria epidemic. However, the one advantage that we see so far with this man-made with this breeding in man-made water container is that the surveillance and control of Anopheles stephensi could be integrated with surveillance and control for Aedes aegypti, because they are co-breed and coexist in man-made water container, and this has been confirmed in most of area where have Anopheles stephensi have been reported so far in Africa, including Djibouti, Ethiopia, and also in Sudan. The third threat that Anopheles stephensi bring to the area is the limited knowledge and data we have about the bionomics of Anopheles stephensi in Africa. And as I mentioned before, that the surveillance and control teams of the vector in Africa, they are more knowledgeable, skillful, and oriented toward the locally known species, Anopheles gambia and Anopheles for instance. So there is a huge gap in knowledge about the bionomic of Anopheles stephensi, where including when it treat like when it take blood meal, the host preference for the blood meal, and the resting behavior, the breathing behavior, and the biting behavior. All of these important information is still we lack, and we need to work on generating such valuable data. So our intervention would be evidence-based and guided by the behavior of nervous inside in Africa, because changing the environment and ecology from Asia to Africa, that might have been associated also with changing behavior and dynamics. Also, we lack valuable information about the suitability of nervous system inside in Africa for the currently available vector control tool, including insecticide-based and larval management intervention of tool. So, challenge for having a totally invasive or a new vector in the area, that's challenge the surveillance system in many ways. And for another system side in Africa, this challenge could be summarized as follows. Firstly, it's the knowledge and skills and experience and practices in the vector surveillance system in Africa is oriented to the locally known species, for instance, and Gambia group. The suggested improvement here is upgrading the integrated vector surveillance and ensuring that surveillance system in Africa are really integrated instead of species oriented or disease oriented. It should shift to like integrated vector surveillance system. And also another challenge is the lack of using advanced tool for confirming the species, because morphologically it's sometimes the vectors look similar, although there is differences. And recent key have been published, identification key have been published last year by Lee, that including analysis stephensi. Nevertheless, handling thousands of samples per day for the vector surveillance teams that's sometimes lead for people to just sort sample instead of doing proper identification. Therefore, the morphological identification for disease vector need to be supported by advanced molecular and sequencing tools. This might help in providing and generating timely data about the species, and could be used for monitoring the spread of Anopheles stephensi and other invasive disease vectors. Another challenge is that how, because it's mainly breed, Anopheles stephensi mainly breed in man-made water container, which mean mostly in houses. Therefore, the surveillance for Anopheles stephensi need to include house and container inspections, which is very laborious, labor demanding, and costly. However, to tackle this issue, we need to build the capacity of vector surveillance and control teams by increasing the number of trained people, and resource mobilizations, and also community engagement might offer a great help here. And all of that depend on the resources. And as we know, in most of Africa, there is a huge shortage in the resources, local resources mainly. Therefore, we suggest that engaging the global community, because the spread of analysis stephensi, it's risking all the progress have been made so far in the prevention and control and elimination of malaria in Africa. Therefore, global engagement is crucial to maintain that success and take it further by succeeding in preventing any further spread of this invasive disease vector as well. So building partnership and collaboration with local and international organizations, including academic institute, private sectors, and as well as non-governmental organizations. However, this experience of the emergence of anopheles systematiae in Africa and the challenge we have been through, and the persistent one that have give us good lesson to learn from, and what we need to build on that and go further. Uh, Mainly, this includes that policymakers should invest more in the vector surveillance and control systems by upgrading the capacity, including increase the number of trained people in these teams, the equipment, infrastructure, and also resource mobilization for the running cost of the surveillance. Also, vector surveillance teams in Africa need to shift from doing business as usual, because that's how we missed detecting a report on system site timely as early as it could be possible. Therefore, it needs to be more vigilant for the invasive species and paying attention to monitor their spread and distribution. Not only for our system side, but also for else adults, which is uh, very alarming for our arboviral disease transmission in the area. Also, the use of molecular and genomic tools for the confirming of the species of vector, because as we mentioned, although it is easily distinguishable using morphological key, but sometimes the sample conditions due to the limitation in the collection tool and lack of expertise of the collecting teams or lack of training in morphological identification that might yield in misidentification of the disease vectors. Therefore, using a backup of molecular and genomic tools, it will be very, very helpful. And also, disease vector surveillance, it needs to be proactive. It needs to be responsive to any increase in cases. For instance, this has helped in the detection of the presence of anopheles stephensi in Djibouti, because what have prompted them to do extensive vector surveillance and do an entomological study is the increase in malaria cases, and that was an unusual increase. They had that in mind, so one of the aspects they have investigated is vector composition, and that how they discovered the presence of anopheles stephensi. Therefore, we need to have in our mind, and the vector surveillance need to work hand by hand with the disease surveillance system, or it could be integrated all together. Last but not least, molecular surveillance systems, molecular gene surveillance systems might offer a very cost-effective and more proactive strategy. However, it requires resource mobilization, but it would be very helpful not only for the anopheles stephensi or malaria, but for particularly for arboviral disease. So by detecting, confirming the species and detecting the pathogens they carry, that will generate super valuable information and timely. Here's some references, and thank you so much.